Hi friends, welcome to another Sims 4 build tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to make your builds look more realistic and lived in. I'm going over all the details that I normally use, like landscaping, terrain paint, exterior and interior details, and I'll also be using two of my favorite mods, T.O.O.L mod and Better BuildBuy, and I'll explain how those can help you add realism. So let's jump right in. So for this tutorial, we're gonna make this little house right here look more lived in, more realistic. It's already kind of cute as is, in my honest opinion. I mean, I did build it myself. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but it is definitely just missing some details. It doesn't really look like someone lives here right now. You know what I mean? And that's what we're gonna change. So first of all, I just feel like this build is definitely missing some exterior details. When we look at the roof, for example, it is very basic, but you know, a little bit bare looking. And something that can help with that is adding little details such as chimneys or even a satellite dish. For some reason, I am obsessed with this item and I use it all the time. So let's put this guy somewhere on the roof. We could put it here. If I press down Alt on my keyboard, it lets me freely place, as opposed to when you're not using Alt, it's kind of using the grid in a way. So if you press down Alt, you can freely place and also freely rotate it. So let's place it down right here and change the color to something that blends in a little bit more, like black. By the way, if you're looking for a tutorial that goes over all the basics when it comes to building in general, then I have a build guide for you. I will link it in the description and also somewhere here on screen. So if you're missing some of the basics, then I really recommend going through that tutorial first. So for this one, I'm essentially just skipping over all those super basic steps and we're just going right into adding details to the build. So we have that little satellite dish, which I think is really cute. We could probably use a chimney or two. I personally love this one from Seasons because it's super small and I feel like, generally speaking, it really works for most builds. What if we did this gray and black swatch and we could place it maybe like on either end of the roof, just like so. I think that looks really cute. Another item that I use all the time to just add some realism is this tiny roof vent, and it looks really good when you size it down once as well, which you can do by using your bracket keys on your keyboard. So maybe let's size it down and place it over here on this side roof somewhere, and I'm not opposed to using it twice. We could even put it here in the crease of the roof. I feel like that's one of my most used tricks when it comes to the roof. Like, I always place this vent in little creases. It just blends in really nicely. That already makes such a difference with those little details. Also, I'm using a lot of gabled roofs, and what I really like for using in gabled roofs are these corbels. They're just little decorations. There isn't really any functionality to them, but I think they are really cute. So they're a little bit big though. So for this house, let's size them down and just place a couple just like so. And then I will probably repeat that for all the like pointy roofs that I have going on over here. These dormers are a little too small, so I could try to place them here if I even size them down twice maybe and like alt place them. Well, actually it's barely noticeable, but it is noticeable. So let's just do that. And then a few of those over on this side as well, just like that. There is another vent, by the way, this one, this little wall vent that I think looks really cute combined with those corbels. So let's just go like that on this side, and we can do one maybe in its original size over on the side here. And then I skipped a little corbel out front. That already helps. I'm also a big fan of flower boxes, and truly nothing really beats this base game one. We have a bunch of different flower boxes from different packs in the game these days, but there's just something about these base game flower boxes that really works. They're a little big on those dormers, so I think I will size them down, and let's just keep them in that yellow swatch. We could even do a couple over here under these windows maybe, just like that, also in yellow. If you use too many of them, it can look a little repetitive, so that is something to look out for. For example, I feel like if I did this, well, actually this still works. It's not too repetitive still, but then I probably won't place one over here. There's a big tree in my way. No, I won't place one over here, but I could place a couple on the side. That is really nice and just adds a tiny bit of cozy coziness as well, in a way. So all of that already helps a lot. Now, a lot of realism, I feel like, also comes from imperfections, and we happen to have a lot of imperfections for wall decorations these days. For example, if you have well, you can already see them right here. If you have vampires, then you can see we have all these like cracks that you can use, these like stains or whatever they are. I feel like those are really cool. Maybe that's a bit much for this house today, but if you have for rent, then that comes with some pretty great imperfections. This one, for example, looks really good above windows, just like that. Like, it's not too disgusting, but there's just like a little something there. We could add something here under this lamp by the front door. You can obviously go crazy with this if you want to. I don't think that's necessary for this house, but just a few details can definitely make a difference. Maybe something over here on the side. Maybe we could repeat this little stain over on this window. Maybe something above the sliding door here. Also a really big fan of this one. That's a little much over there, but we could place it here on the brick. You can barely see it again, but it definitely does something. A little smudge of something over there. I don't really necessarily want to know what this is. I think it's mold, but you know, it kind of just looks like cute stains in a way. That's how we're using them. Maybe something under here by that vent. So again, I don't necessarily want this house to look disgusting, but it just helps if there is a little something there. There we go. That's cute. I mean, not that mold or stains are necessarily cute, but when it comes to The Sims, I personally find it cute. Something else that I really like is placing these wall-mounted air conditioning units. They go over like windows and stuff, so maybe instead of flower boxes over on this side, we could use these AC units, or maybe just for one of the windows. I always place them under the window, and then you can even go for a swatch that has a little bit more wear and tear on it. We don't have to do that though. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to look gross in order for it to look realistic, but sometimes it helps. And you can kind of see that vent on the inside as well, so it's sticking out a little bit. If I made it smaller, we can just kind of hide it a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. I think that looks ever so slightly better. Maybe on the other window, we could just place that flower box back. And then we have a window on this side as well, where I think I'm just gonna size down the AC unit and place it down, maybe in that same blue swatch to kind of blend it in with the house exterior colors. And then we can also do one back here. Again, I'll choose to size it down. I think I always place this item sized down, because when it's not sized down, it's just a little bulky. It kind of depends. If you're building a really big house, I feel like that works better, but this house is kind of small. Okay, then I think it's time for details around the house. Not in the last place, landscaping. Obviously, when you look at the house next door, for example, that one's very overgrown in a way with a lot of landscaping, and I kind of want to do the same thing over here. Now, this is where it becomes interesting. I am using the mod Better BuildBuy and Organized Debug by TwistedMexi. I will put a link to their mod in the description box down below so you can find it there. Little disclaimer, this is not a tutorial on how to install those mods, so I highly recommend going over the instructions and installing them correctly. I'm just going to show you how I use them in my game. So when you have Better BuildBuy installed, when you go over here to your filter panel, you'll see that you have this extra Better BuildBuy panel. I'm using the move objects on and the ignore unlocks options here, just so that I don't have to put in those cheats every time myself. And I'm using organized debug. Now, what that means is that all the debug items in your game are categorized under the appropriate sections in the actual build by menu. Now, when I have organized debug turned on, I'll go to content over here and I will enable debug and live edit. And then you can see that all your debug plants are categorized under the shrubs and trees and flowers and all those rocks and things as well. And that goes for the entire menu. So it's not only build stuff, it's also decorations. When you go to clutter, for example, you'll see all this clutter over here from the debug menu. If that's too much to use every single time, you can just toggle the debug and live edit on and off, and then it's gone. I personally don't use it all the time when I'm building because it's just too much. It's you know, too much to filter through. So when I'm looking for specific items from debug, I'll turn it on and I'll basically know where to find it. And I mainly use it for landscaping because it's just so much better to landscape with all the debug shrubs and things. One of my favorite shrubs to line my builds with, let me just quickly filter for base game, is this debug shrub. It is just so easy to use and just amazing. Also, when you have Better BuildBuy installed, you can actually copy over debug items, which normally isn't the case. Normally you get to place it down once, and then you can't hold down shift and have it copy itself over normally. But with Better BuildBuy installed, that is actually an option, so it's very, very useful. So let me just line out the side of the build with this low-lying bush, if you will. We will place a little bit of landscaping there. Actually, maybe not over here, maybe just over here. And then out front, I want to do some like flowery bushes or something. I also love this flowery bush. I think this one with the pink flowers is really nice. And I'll place one over here as well. These ones from the debug menu are a little bit bigger than the regular ones, and I feel like they're a little bit too high up. I would love to lower these down, and that's where the tool mod comes in handy. So again, I will link the tool mod in the description box so you can find the mod and the installed instructions over there. So I highly suggest carefully going through them when you are going to download these mods. But if I want to lower these down, I would just click Shift T to open up the tool mod, and I'll click the bush that I want to lower down. Now I want to kind of lower these two down at the same time. So I'll hold down Alt and click on this bush, and then I'll select Elevate. I kind of know the increments that I want to use at this point because I've done it so many times. So I want to lower these down ever so slightly. So I'm just going to do -0.2 and click OK, and there they go. They're just ever so slightly lower now. And then you want to click the bush again so that it's deselected. Press Shift T to close out of tool mod. And here are your bushes, just ever so slightly lowered down. If you do click them again, however, they will jump back up to their original height. So once it's tool modded, and you can't really move it anymore unless you want to do something a little bit more advanced. Go back to tool mod and select this bush. If you want it to stay lower down like this, but you want to move it forward a little bit, hold down Alt and click somewhere in front of the bush. And as you can see, it ever so slightly just is moving to where your mouse is. So that is definitely something that you can also do if you want to place things a little bit more precisely. One of my all-time favorite trees from the debug menu, or just in the game in general, are these two. They are from the base game, and they're just so simple, but I love using them. We have this awkward little spot over here, so I think it'd be cute to maybe cover that with a tree, and I think that looks really cute. We kind of have a nook over here as well where one of these taller ones sized down could potentially look good. It is very much right in front of the window though, so maybe not. Maybe this corner over here? I mean, sure. Or in the back, so it's not that intrusive and like in your face the whole time. Yeah, that's cute. You can see that I literally did the same thing with a neighboring house over here. That is really funny. It makes the neighborhood blend together nicely though, so let's just go for it. I think a cute hedge would look good on the side of the house over here, so I'm just gonna select this one. I think this one's debug too. Yeah, that one's debug as well. Let's check if it isn't clipping. I don't think it is, so we should be good on that end. And then I just want to make this look a little bit cuter with some more plants and flowers and whatnot. This base game hydrangea is also one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely love this thing. So I love to layer plants very close together. Maybe this is a little bit too much for some people, and I completely understand that. Sometimes I like to do more manicured landscaping too, but on an everyday basis, I normally just make my landscaping look very overgrown. I'm using a lot of layered plants, overlapping plants. I basically cover up the entire foundation in a way. I'll spend 30 minutes picking out the perfect foundation swatch, and then I just end up covering it up with plants. It happens every time. So out front, I feel like that already looks pretty cute. We obviously also have the back to do. Maybe we could use another tree over here. I think one of these is kind of nice. And maybe one here on the side as well. I can just get my eyedropper tool and copy over these debug low-lying bushes. It is just one of the best features from the mod, I feel. Size it down over here. I also feel like it's best to not use too many different plants and flowers from too many different packs, for example. I normally stick to just a selection of base game flowers and bushes and just repeatedly use those so that it all looks a little bit more cohesive in that sense and it doesn't look too messy. Out front here we can use some more flowery bushes. These are, I think, just the regular ones. Yeah, the ones you have to pay for. I'll pay for my flowers this time. Okay, I feel like that looks pretty cute and already so much better than the bare house that we started out with. Something very important is missing though, and that is terrain paint. So most importantly, what I want to do is I want to put some soil underneath all the plants that we placed. I do want to do this carefully, however. So I normally adjust the softness to, you know, the softest option all the way to the right in this case, or maybe one little tick over to the left, but normally I just go for the softest option that we have, and then I go for a round brush that isn't too big but not too small either. So I'll normally just use this size and then go over the landscaping that I just placed down so that you see a little line of soil appear just outside of where the landscaping is placed. I personally love that little line. I think it looks cute. I think it gives a little bit of dimension to the build in that sense. And the same goes for the areas where I didn't place any plants. I'll just go over the foundation a little bit just to add a little bit of depth to the whole thing. Also under this tree, just a little bit of soil. And the same goes for the fences. Just go over the underside of the fences so that it just looks more, I guess, realistic in that sense. If it goes a little bit too slow, I will just adjust the softness down here to a bit more harsh. And then it's just not as precise, but it goes a little bit faster. The same goes for this terrace. I just like to put a little bit of soil under the seam over there as well. A fun little thing that I like to do with terrain paint when it comes to paths, you can see that I placed these sidewalk tiles, which this doesn't all the way connect, which is the most annoying thing in the world, but we're just gonna pretend we do not see. There's nothing we can do about that, okay? What I like to do, these edges just look very harsh. I like to blend that in, again, with terrain paint. It's all about blending, I guess, when it comes to this. So if we, for example, select this Pebbles Please terrain paint and we make it super soft and a little smaller, we can go over the edge right here just to add some pebbles on the side of this, I guess, little sidewalk path. It's super light, but I really like it. And then we can blend it in by selecting like a soil and going over that. It's all about layering terrain paints, if you will. Look at that. Now the path just doesn't look as harsh. It is a very subtle difference, but I feel like it really helps. And then what I also wanted to do here, I feel like we have a really cute spot here, maybe for a sand pit. So how I like to create those is I like to get this smooth keeper fence and just select a color. This swatch tray, by the way, is also something that comes with the Better BuildBuy Organized Debug mod. I think I'm going with white to match the house. So starting over here on the fence, if we started over on the side of the house, it puts it on a foundation, as you can see, which is not what we want to do. So I'm gonna undo that, and then I'm gonna start over here on this side and drag it all the way across and then connect it to the house. And that way it's actually connected and not on a foundation. Then we're gonna color this in with some kind of sand terrain paint. I think if you have the Island Living expansion pack, it lets your Sims build sand castles and all that, and all these sand terrain paint options. If you don't have that expansion pack, I don't think you can build sand castles, but if you do have that pack, it's really cute, and you can just, you know, have your Sims build sand castles in a little sand pit. I think that's adorable. So we're just gonna color in this area right here just with some sand, and I think it's kind of realistic that you see a little bit of that sand here under the fence. And then again, we can blend in the edge right here with a little bit of soil, just ever so slightly going over that, like that. And then we have a cute sand pit and we can put some toys and stuff in it. I also like to use different types of grass in my backyards. It's something I've started doing recently, but I just really like it. So when we select a grass, let's say this one with the the white little flowers. And we make the brush a little bigger, but still soft. We can just kind of click over the grass and you can see that it adds just some of those flowers. And then maybe I want to blend it with this normal grass and kind of just like click over it. And it's just cute looking. There's so much that you can do with terrain paint, especially if you layer them and blend them. There's a lot that you can do that I think just looks really cute. Let's do the same thing out front here. Just some of those little white flowers. I think that's really cute. And then layer it with a different grass. There we go. Some extra detail added and it was super easy to do. Next up, let's add some life around the house by using objects. For example, we could really use a garbage can. I still have my debug and live edit filters on, so you can see all these items in here. For now, I'm just gonna turn that off. Under content, I'm just gonna deselect debug and live edit so things are a little bit more clean in the menu. So we could use a cute trash bin. I mean, are trash bins ever cute? I don't feel like they are, but we can make it look cute in this game. So instead of placing it right here next to the mailbox, we could move it over a little bit and maybe place it on a slight angle. You know, I think that makes it look a little bit more realistic and like it's recently been used. Something that I love to place that I feel like adds a lot of life to a house is bicycles. So for this house, for example, we could just put a little mountain bike, maybe right here, and then maybe a kid's bike right by it over there. So we have those parked over there. I feel like it'd be cute to have a little soccer ball maybe scattered around, maybe even a football. Maybe these kids have been throwing those things around. That's kind of cute to just have those lying around. I feel like a swing set would be particularly cute in this front yard. It's a little snug, but it looks adorable and I really want to use it. So let's put a red swing set. It's kind of fun when that doesn't necessarily match the color scheme of the house because, again, that's realistic. And it now already looks like kids are living here and kids have been running around kicking soccer balls, you know? The same goes for the backyard. Like, this is cute, but what if we picked up this table and placed it on a slight angle just like this? The same goes for this bin back here. Maybe we want to put that on a little bit of an angle. This backyard could really do with a basketball hoop, if you ask me. This one from City Living. I mean, realistically, is that gonna get caught in the tree? Probably, yes. But I mean, it's The Sims. We could pick a swatch where there's some like cracks in the plastic. When we turn debug back on, you'll find these actual basketballs from City Living in the active menu as well. So that's kind of fun. Maybe we could even put two. What would also work in here probably are some loungers. And I love placing these on slight angles as well so that it kind of looks like Sims have been dragging those around to find the sunniest spots in the backyard for the specific time of day. You know what I mean? And maybe a few planters could be cute as well. So we'll do one big one. I love to combine bigger ones and smaller ones together. So we'll just do a couple of these as well. Maybe change the color, give them all different colors. An old toy box and a little bit of a weathered swatch I feel like works nicely. Ooh, we could also do this play tent. Wait, that's actually kind of fun. It's a little obnoxious looking, but it's realistic. Yeah, I think that's cute. And just like that, we have a pretty realistic and lived in looking backyard, but also front yard right here. We have a pretty spacious front porch here, so I think we could do with a chess table. Personally, I don't really know anyone that has a chess table like this. To me, this is not a realistic item. I've never seen a chess table like this in real life, but it is such a staple in The Sims, and it's just really nice for gameplay purposes. So let's just plunk one over here. What's very realistic, in my honest opinion, is a welcome mat. Let's use this one from For Rent. I think that's really cute. The only thing is, it is so tiny. So I'm gonna size that up using the tool mod. Opening the tool mod by pressing Shift T, clicking the rug and choosing scale. I only want to size it up ever so slightly, so I'm gonna do 1.3 maybe? Yeah, so that sizes it up just enough so that it's a little bigger. And again, placed on a slight angle, it just It looks realistic. I would personally definitely place like a little plant by the front door, maybe a small bench over here. We have the perfect spot for it. So if we placed it down in white to match with the exterior, I feel like that works. Okay, so let's move on to the interior of this build. When it comes to the interior, I like to go for story-driven decor. So before I start decorating, I like to think of who lives here. What kind of household do we have in this home? Now, that's already been kind of filled in for us. I think we're gonna have 2 children and then potentially just 2 parents in this house. And I don't know, maybe they have a dog. I could totally see a dog running around in this backyard, so let's go with that. So 2 parents, 2 younger children. This house is probably not gonna be super clean. There's probably gonna be a bit of a mess around. So starting with the entryway, what are items that you would normally find in an entryway? The first thing that comes to my mind is a coat rack. I stand by this. We need more standing coat racks in the game, but for now we'll use this one. We already have a large mirror here that I think is fun. And with that coat rack, we could probably use an umbrella rack too. Again, all placing things and putting them on slight angles is very helpful, I feel. I think it would be fun to have a small chair in the entryway as well. It's one of those where you would just sit down and then like tie your shoes or something. I feel like that's pretty realistic. And speaking of shoes, we can definitely put a couple of those under here somewhere. Now, maybe just some clutter on top of this table would also be good. My favorite kit to use, especially for hallways and entryways, is the Everyday Clutter Kit. I use this stuff all the time. Just these little key holders and letters, a phone and keys in the hallway, I feel like makes perfect sense. Maybe some workout stuff, some sticky notes and pens, maybe a pair of reading glasses or sunglasses, a little yoga mat in the corner here, ready to grab for when you're out going to yoga class. Ooh, these bags are perfect also. Maybe just place those over here on this side. That looks like Sims are just in and out of the door in this house, you know what I mean? We could definitely use an entryway rug over here as well. Oop, my door is glitching out. That's okay. Maybe in beige. And something I feel like we're missing in this house is curtains. I mean, you would definitely have curtains in real life, right? Look how much that already fills up the space. Now, I'm weird and I like to place curtains over my front doors as well. People laugh at me for that sometimes, and I completely get it. Like, maybe it's kind of weird, but I just like it better than that bare door, just like looking straight into your living room, you know what I mean? So that's what I like to do. These couches are very basic. They're just the base game blue couches, and there's nothing wrong with them, but they just don't look very comfortable to me. So something that I like to do ever since we got throw pillows in the game, these were unlocked by playing through a gameplay event, and we actually recently got new ones. Let me find that one. Yeah, this one. It looks even more fluffy and it just comes in such cute colors. So I want to place those on the couch, but they don't slot. So what I'll do is I'll slightly elevate it by pressing Control 9 on my keyboard. I will Alt rotate it so that it rotates freely and kind of place it in the corner. But as you can see, it's just very straight up and it's not really leaning in the couch. You know what I mean? So we can very easily fix that by using the tool mod. So again, pressing Shift T to open up the tool mod, clicking the pillow and then selecting rotate. Now this is tricky because you're gonna have to change the axis to where you're rotating it back and forth, if that makes sense. So this is not the right axis. This is the right axis that just kind of goes over the pillow like that. I want to rotate this pillow backwards. So we're gonna do minus, and then I always go for minus 10 or 15 when it comes to these throw pillows. So let's go with 10, click OK, and then you can see that it rotates. Deselect and press Shift T. With rotating, you can still actually grab it and move it around. It won't snap back to its original state. So I feel like that looks really cute. We're definitely gonna do that on the other side as well. Maybe choosing a different swatch here. These pillows are also different in the front and in the back, which I think is so fun. But I think I want to use this one. Again, just gonna rotate it, minus 10, putting it in the couch like that. Look at that. That looks so cute. Another important spot in the house to really add life and details is the coffee table, especially especially a house with kids, it's not gonna have a super clean, spotless coffee table with just a cute plant on it, you know? It's gonna have a bunch of stuff, maybe one cute little plant like this, but for the most part, you're gonna wanna have some tissues, probably. Someone probably left their headphones out. Oh, you know what? Maybe someone's into cross-stitching, or what is this for? Knitting, actually. Maybe someone's into knitting and they need their glasses for that as well. And they probably had some cookies while they were drinking their tea out of these mugs. And with that, there's probably a mug on this table as well. We can change the swatches of those. And there's probably gonna be some things stored under the table as well. Maybe they like to do board games every now and then and they just put them under the table because it's easier to reach, just like that. And they also like to do puzzles from time to time, so they're just kind of stored under there. Those are the things I like to think about when I'm decorating, and just like that, there's so much personality added. Also, little corners like this are rarely gonna be empty in a real home unless you're just very clean and tidy, you know what I mean? Which I aspire to be that person, but for me, these little corners, there's probably gonna be something there. I feel like for this house, we could also use maybe a reading lamp. I know there's a light over here as well, but I feel like a reading light over here in this corner would make sense. And corners like this are the perfect spot to store some toys and whatnot. So maybe we just have this basket that is, I don't know, either filled with blankets or toys or whatever, just sitting right there. Ooh, I forgot about this bag. I love this bag. I'm just quickly gonna place that here in the entry. So cute. Also, this magazine rack, I feel like is the perfect item to place in this tiny little area over here. It barely fits. I could size it down again with the tool mod, so I'm just gonna select that. Scale it down ever so slightly, so 0.9. We'll just make it a tiny bit smaller, and then it fits a little better. Something is missing here, and I think what's gonna look cute is just a little plant, or maybe not even a little plant, maybe a big plant. Yeah, that fills up the space really, really nicely. So we're just gonna speed through me cluttering up the dining room, kitchen, and office for this house because I believe that you get the general concept by now. I'm really just trying to clutter up these areas with items that I could really see these Sims use on a daily basis. I will say with more recent packs that we've gotten and like kits and things, we have gotten a lot more of those like really small clutter items, like really realistic things such as like the plates, the like stacks of plates and the cereal boxes, for example, the water bottles, all those types of things. I feel like we've really gotten more of those little items that really help with making a build look lived in more recent kits. So I'm definitely using those items here because I generally just feel like they really help out and they really just get the picture across of what I want this house to look like. So yeah, here in the kitchen, you can see that I'm just placing a couple of items. I do, whenever it comes to building my houses, I do like to keep in mind that I want it to be functional too, as well as lived in. So I really try to find that middle ground where everything is cluttered, but it's not too full where the routing is going to be problematic. So for example, in the kitchen, I will always leave one countertop free of decorations so that Sims can just use that for cooking in their actual nicely cluttered up kitchen, if that makes sense. Then over here, we also have an office that I really just, again, want to make it look like someone's been using this office. We have some notes, like a little notebook on an angle on the desk. I enjoyed placing a little fish bowl here in this office. I don't know what it is about fish bowls, but I just really like them. And yeah, I just placed some little decorations, pictures, postcards, a little light in the corner, but yeah, that's really it. So going back to the kitchen real quick, something I also like to do is to clutter up on top of the microwave. I just feel like that adds such a level of detail. And in order to do that, I'm going to use this high school year's little shelf and I'm going to alt place it on the wall and line it up with the height of the microwave. Then I'm going to move this counter with the microwave over to the side and I'm going to get some stuff to clutter with. I think I want to clutter it up with a lunchbox or so. I think this one one is cute. So I'm gonna place that one on top of the high school years shelf. Then I'm gonna grab it, hold down Alt, and move it to where I think it's gonna sit on top of the microwave where I want it to. So say I want to place it right here. So we're going to place this back real quick. And that is literally perfectly in the middle, which I think is really fun. So just choosing a cute swatch, and then maybe we could add like a water bottle or something as well. So let's move that out of the way and then place this one right behind the lunchbox in a different color maybe. There we go. I think that looks very realistic and cute. So this kids room is cute, but it's definitely missing stuff. I, as a kid, for example, had a bunch of stuff on my walls, and I love cluttering up kids rooms with just little shelves with different little knickknacks in them. So what if we just put a little shelf up here, and we could do that same exact trick with the high school years shelf, because not everything slots to these shelves. So let's say we wanted to add some cute books on this shelf. As you can see, it's not really slotting, so we can just plonk it up here, hold down Alt, and then move it over the shelf. There we go. Maybe change the color up a little bit. Maybe this kid loves their DVDs or something, so we could place those up there as well. That already adds a little bit of personality. I feel like we also definitely need some posters and whatnot. One of my favorite decals to use is this one from Growing Together. I think this one is so gorgeous. Ooh, especially this one with the pink flowers and the blue birds. Absolutely stunning. And I think we could do with some plushies on the bed. I know Love Struck has a few that are really cute. Yeah, what if we got this penguin and this little heart plushie? Again, going to do that same trick with the high school years shelf. So let's plonk this guy over here and then maybe put it on the bed like this. And this one as well. It wants to slot back to the little cubby, so I'm gonna just put that here and delete the shelf. Maybe let's size down the penguin a little bit. And then we have some plushies on the bed, and these aren't actually in the way of anything, so Sims will still just be able to use the bed, but the plushies will just be sitting there, and it just looks so cute. And with kids' rooms, I feel like it's important to keep in mind that it can be colorful and mismatched, because again, that is just realistic for a kid's bedroom. So this one, color scheme wise, is a little bit all over the place, but I think for that reason, it just really goes nicely. Just for a finishing touch, I think we could put some little toys over here on the nightstand maybe. Just a couple of toys they have maybe been playing with, and that looks nice and lived in. I also think that bathrooms are the perfect spot to add in some imperfections and just a little bit of a mess to add personality to the house. Take those laundry machines, for example. Those are cute and realistic on their own, but if we just put some things on top of the washer and dryer, like laundry detergent and a bucket of cleaning supplies in a couple different colors, it's super simple, but that looks used. And then the sink in here, we have some counter space, which doesn't always happen because usually my bathrooms are a bit smaller than this one, but we have some counter space here, so why not use it? We could place this a little bit more precisely by just moving the surface out of the way and then putting it back. Immediately lived in. We can use some of these other items. This is all from the bathroom clutter kit. This plunger is so cute. It's just a little bit big though, so I tend to size it down, and then maybe we could place it here by the toilet, make it look a little bit more cramped in that sense. Choose some cute colors for these items. I don't like how this is sitting, so we could just move that out of the way. Maybe a toothbrush over here and some more toothbrushes right there as well. And then like a blow dryer just on the edge. That's probably gonna fall at some point, but you know, that happens in real life all the time. We already have some toilet paper, but I am obsessed with placing toilet paper over here. The toilets actually have slots these days. That didn't always used to be the case, but it is the case now. One of my favorite things to do as well is putting a medicine cabinet over top the toilet. I don't know why, I just love it. Oh, and we're definitely missing some towels. These are a little bit big, so I'll size them down, put some towels over here right by the sink, and that is your cluttered lived-in bathroom. Ooh, for a finishing touch, maybe a little robe right here by the door in beige. Sure. So now we are in the main bedroom, the parents' bedroom. This one's also looking a little bit bare. One thing I love to put in bedrooms is the laundry chair. I feel like we all have the laundry chair. We're probably all familiar with this concept. It's a chair where you just dump your clothes on to sort through later, you know, that's the one. And I kind of think that that would look cute here in this corner. High School Years has a pile of laundry that I feel like could be really cute on top of this chair. It is floating. Now I could tool it into place. Yeah, let's actually do that. So it's just floating ever so slightly. So let me open up Tool, click the pile of clothes and click Elevate. Then we only need to lower it down ever so slightly. So minus 0.1, that might be too much. Yeah, that's definitely too much. Then we'll just elevate it a little bit. 0.05. Yeah, I feel like that's just what it needs to be. I don't think I want to change the color of that pile of laundry. I think it looks just fine. And I mean, it's so simple, but I feel like it really works. So here I'm just gonna speed through decorating the rest of this bedroom. I made this like makeshift vanity type thing just out of an end table and a mirror, and I cluttered it up with just your everyday things that you would use, like perfumes, a hairbrush, those types of things. I put a plant in the corner and some frames for family pictures and some laundry. And just like that, the house is looking cluttered, lived in, realistic. I think it's done. It's the same build still, but now it just feels so much more alive. Adding small imperfections, clutter, just little things to make the house look more realistic. It makes such a difference. So again, you will find links to the tool mod and also Better BuildBuy in the description box down below. Again, I can't stress this enough, but make sure you go through the download and install instructions and install it correctly. But those mods are definitely game changers when it comes to this kind of stuff. But that is it for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I really hope that this was helpful. If it was, let me know in the comments down below what you learned from this video. And if you have any suggestions for other tutorials that you would like to see, let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and turn on post notifications if you want to get notified every time I upload. You can follow me over on Instagram, Twitch, and TikTok as well. My username over there is Simmary Sims. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!